This little dog and pony show we got going on here is growing. That's right. Sweet Jesus. This is a bonus episode. This is a special. We're going to start doing this. Geoff and I had the best conversation with Kathy Moore. If you don't know Kathy Moore, she's an absolute gem of a human. Not to mention one of the most shredding guitar players you're going to see. We go into spirituality, yoga, family, upbringing, jazz. It's all here for you. It's all here for you. So, without further ado, our first guest, Miss Kathy Moore. Oh, I almost forgot to pay the bills. Let's Get High and Read the Bible is brought to you by Magic Medicine Marijuana, found here in beautiful sunny California. Oh, shit.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That took way longer than a smart person should. I guess I know the truth now.
You're not a sound man or a video man person.
And neither are we, so you're amongst friends.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys have fancy microphones.
Oh, yeah.
We do have the fancy microphones. They kind of
fancier. Leif has the really fancy one, and I'm like, I listen to our podcast. I'm like, I need to get a better microphone.
These are the
Maybe
best.
I will too. I'm gonna run out really quick and get a microphone.
You can if you want.
Do you want to? No, right.
You mean like American music style.
Yeah, we
you'll
didn't
hear
know.
me, maybe you won't.
Yeah.
This is the mic they recorded Thriller on.
Is that really the mic they recorded?
Yeah, the SM7B.
Not that exact one.
Oh, no. I would be in a glass case. I would probably be like, I'd probably just like sit with some wine and stare at it.
You probably would have sold
Everybody would be going to your house too.
Yeah, I would have sold it so I could go on tour with a band I loved. I wasn't going to make any money. Yeah.
Leif, are you going to be getting high during this?
I got it loaded right now.
Okay, yeah. So just it's not mandatory, and you are officially our first guest on the Let's Get High and Read the Bible podcast.
Wow.
Woot woot.
I feel so honored.
We couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, we couldn't be happier.
And it seems like it couldn't be more appropriate.
Well, you guys do know that I cannot get high, right?
Yes.
No, that's fine.
That's why I started off with Leif. Are you gonna get high? Because the dynamic has we've cemented our dynamic that for the most part Leif gets high, since he didn't spend his whole upbringing getting high, and I do most of the Bible reading since I didn't spend most of my upbringing reading the Bible. So that's it's more of a someone's getting high and someone's reading the Bible. It's not always.
It's really my cross to bear.
and he bears it well.
Yeah, excellent.
Takes it right on the chin.
Take up my cross daily.
Yeah.
I also spent my childhood not getting high for this very reason.
Yeah. So, where did you grow up, Kathy?
In the Midwest.
Oh, wow.
In Iowa.
Awesome.
Which I liked.
Yeah.
Kansas, which was challenging where I lived. And, but other parts of Kansas, rural.
Yeah.
In Michigan, also,
damn.
My dad was a pastor.
Oh, a PK. I did not know that.
That is the case.
That's so you grew up, like, at what age was he a pastor? Like your whole life?
My whole life, yeah.
Wow. So you were born
a pastor and
into
a music pastor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That makes sense why you shred.
Yeah, he was like, he sang like Roy Orbison.
Did he? Does he? Does he still?
He since passed away, but he did all the way up. He was out performing to homeless people. Like he had a mission for the rest of his life of working with homeless people, and he would go out and perform.
Sounds like a real Christian.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
Wow.
My parents were good.
That's amazing.
So I guess the first question we need to ask is, have you read the Bible?
I have read multiple sections of the Bible over and over, but not the whole Bible, because can I say there's a lot of really boring parts?
The begats,
like it could not bear.
When the begats start,
you can.
God, yeah.
Over.
Kind of hard to understand too,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we weren't really supposed to understand. We were supposed to have people guide us through it, interpret it for us. So.
Right. Yeah.
I actually might agree with that. I think I'm too stupid to read the Bible. I don't know.
Well, also, I don't know if your experience is the same, but in church there wasn't like a big philosophical discussion about.
Yeah, no theology.
Right.
You're not going to be talking about predestination from the pulpit. Yeah.
No.
Wow. So did you believe? Do you still believe? I guess this would be the question.
I don't, but I fully believed until I went to Christian college.
Oh, okay.
And went to philosophy class.
Ooh.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
Philosophy and science blew my mind.
Yeah.
And Star Trek.
The next generation.
To boldly go.
Well, there was an episode in the original Star Trek, because they used to replay them over and over, where they get taken to a planet and this god will do anything to take care of them as long as they worship him. He just wants their worship. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a terrible thing. Wait a minute. And that was my first question.
I want to watch this episode now.
I know what you're talking
I'll
about.
Find it and I'll send it to you.
Oh my God.
Wait, so your first question is Star Trek real?
Yeah, that was, yeah, absolutely. So do you,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you still believe?
Me?
Yeah.
So it's really complicated because I grew up so isolated.
Where?
In Maple Valley, Washington. This tiny little town, but it was I grew up on the end of a 7-mile long dead end road. So it was like out in the woods. But I started playing in rock bands, met people like Geoff, and we'd have these deep conversations. And I realized I was never introduced to any counter arguments. So I had read the Bible like cover to cover multiple times. But as I aged and I would go on tour and for instance, purity culture is really big. So I was like, they would all know I was keeping my virginity for marriage. I'd tell all them, it's like,
Wait, you're doing what? And why? Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rough.
But you're still spiritual.
Well, so the problem with that was that led to there's lots of problems. I did all the stuff they said, it didn't work out, and my first marriage failed, and all these things. So it made me this insane atheist, and I was really, really equipped because I can quote the Bible. And so I spent a couple years being really angry and just it's not a fun place to be. So I smoked 14 hits of DMT this one night, which is this really intense psychedelic. And, didn't have kids in my house, and I didn't, it was a real low time in my life. So it was a good time to do that. And it was such a transformative experience. It was I became, it kind of broke me out of the atheistic, if that's even a word, dogmatic in the other way opinion. So now I'm as we've been reading this Bible, it's been crazy to me because I've never had someone else to bounce the ideas off of that was objective in any way. That would bring, we all believed, and all of us, it was like this echo chamber. And when you're discussing it, you're trying to kind of fit scripture into life, even when it doesn't work. So as we've been reading the Bible, it's been really hard. I find myself being really defensive of it. And we're getting in fights, but To the people I grew up with in the congregation I was a part of, I'm like a heretic that is going to burn in hell.
Of course.
Yeah. So I don't know what I believe, and it's kind of fun.
That
was a really long answer, I guess. Sorry.
No, that's a good answer.
Really
I think that's what
really
happens when you go away from a faith that was, like, for me, I used to proselytize, so I was fully in. Yeah. And then you go the opposite direction, which is fully out. And I was telling Geoff the other day, I am predisposed to believe in God. And I'm also, there's something about my makeup. I'm predisposed to be spiritual. And so the more that I learn about science and philosophy and the way the brain works and stuff like that, I feel like it just suits me to be in a place where I'm trying to measure my behaviors and think about how I interact with other people and recognize that I might have some feelings that I can correct in a way that's not so guilt-ridden and judgmental. And, my parents were really good, but the rest of the church was not so great. So, anyway.
Kathy, how so? Like, your parents were good, but what, like, congregation-wise?
Yeah, I think I told you that I had a family member come out, and my dad immediately accepted that person. And, I feel like they were pretty progressive, even though they would consider themselves to be conservative, very conservative. But, we grew up in a small town where a lot of people in the church were racist, and and this is not indicative of Christianity, it was just where I grew up. And outwardly outspoken racist and
the love of Christ.
And homophobic and not helping other people. Mm-hmm. They helped each other within the community. They would actually look out for people if someone passed away or if someone didn't have rent or so within that small community they were helpful. And I think that's also just the nature of the human condition, is that people help a small group of people. Maybe we might be moving away from that as well.
It seems like
in our church independence.
And so what age is that? How long is it before you said college is when you kind of fell out of religious immersion, mental
18
immersion?
Wow.
And I was in the middle of a Christian college, and I'm like, and it was the first time I was away from home, so I wasn't just surrounded constantly by people that had the same. There's a lot of things in the Bible about not questioning your faith, that our intellect is not so that we can possibly understand what we're reading. And I used to have a verse like that on my wall, because I think I knew that the doubts were starting to pile up.
Oh wow, totally.
And so you were you that was SPU?
Yeah.
So you're here, and what year is that?
That was in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So you show up here in 1988?
Yeah, so during the time where everyone was preparing for grunge.
Yeah.
I was Christianing out.
Oh my goodness.
I missed it. All the malfunction things I could have enjoyed, I was Christianing out.
But were you a music student?
Yes. Yeah, I was studying piano and voice and accompanying opera singers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talking about breath control.
Well, I was this part, the piano.
Right.
But yeah.
Oh, okay.
And did you go all the way through SPU?
I went half through SPU, and then I was like, nope. And then I went down to LA and went to school.
Oh shit.
So you had a falling out halfway through? That's like when it happened?
Yes.
And
that's what happened.
And what did that look like?
It was pretty calm.
Pretty calm.
Oh wow.
But I hid it from my parents for a long time, and I think it kind of broke their heart. You never want to break your parents' hearts, especially if they're awesome.
Yeah.
Like that, religion was truly the answer for them in a way that I think was important and profound, and I agree with them on their own belief. Like, they did it right, so cool. I don't know that I feel like I need to believe in an afterlife per se. And I kind of am starting to think that maybe thinking of an afterlife takes us away from what is important and relevant and where we are right now, which is looking out for the people around us and making sure that people are okay.
Yeah, amen.
And so you moved to California like halfway through college. Do you finish your studies there, or why Los Angeles?
Yeah. I mean, I went into jazz. The jazz became my new religion. Cool. So I just started studying jazz and trained with some jazz. I started playing guitar because I didn't have a piano around, and I fell in love with guitar.
And when you moved?
Yeah, it was right before I moved. I bought a guitar at American Music in change, like $100 guitar or whatever.
That's awesome.
And then I couldn't stop practicing. I don't know if you guys were like that when you found your instrument, but I couldn't stop playing. I stopped being friends with people just to play guitar, you know?
Yep. Sit in your room.
I'd like to hang out with you, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, the TV's going to be on the background. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And so, like, and when you had your break with religion, was it permanent? Was it permanent? I mean, was there a backlash?
Yeah.
Was there a backlash?
Ooh.
Like
yeah, you know, every time I leave something big, I feel like you lose all your friends, right? So people were freaked out because I was the most Christian that you possibly could be.
Seems like we have a lot in common.
I think I was telling you this story, Geoff, the other day that I used to go proselytize where you hand out tracts.
Totally.
And I did this because I was afraid that if I didn't, it was my responsibility that people were going to die and go to hell for all of eternity and suffer. I had this big burden on me. I wasn't trying to be a jerk or think I was better than anyone. It was really the sort of opposite thing of, I have to go do this.
Yeah.
And so I was handing out tracts, and
what's a tract?
This guy...
It's like a condensed pamphlet that has like a message about Christ. So it'll either be through a story or some scripture, but it's going to be like quick and to the point, trying to get you saved from hell. So you can leave it with them. So maybe after you've talked to them and connected, they a couple days later will see it and, you know, get some of that heart juice going towards the Almighty.
This guy came up to me, looked like a college student, and he said, I just want to let you know, I think what you're doing is great because you really believe in this. It's clear you believe in this, but I'm agnostic. And so I was like, what? I had never heard that word before. And I went and talked to my friends. I'm like, what is agnostic? And they said, it means that you don't know whether God exists or not. And it planted a seed in my brain. So he actually witnessed to me. And it took like 4 or 5 years later for me to go, oh yeah, that's what I am.
I'm what that guy was. That's awesome. So he had his what are they called? Scripts? Tracts? His track was just verbal. He's like a verbal little plant a little track in your head there.
He planted a seed.
Thank you, whoever that was.
Do you feel so when you think back on, you know, Leif and I talk about his upbringing and you know, it was first of all, it was mandatory. and second of all, it was kind of detrimental to a lot of relationships. You know, first marriage, the second marriage that didn't actually happen, you know, all that, you know, but you seem to have you have this great opinion and view of your parents and how religion, like it was a positive for them.
Yeah.
How did you do you feel like are you happy with your upbringing? You know what I mean? Like, do you have baggage from that?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This whole podcast is basically about us unloading our baggage from organized religion. So it's like one of the things we want to get to is like you don't seem to have a grudge with your parents or you know their.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, my grudge is with the church and with the teachings. I have a big grudge with. Although I do think it's really great. One of the things I like about religion in general is they sort of have this system of organization of our behaviors, and there's nothing else in life that holds you accountable. You have to hold yourself accountable, and it's a really hard thing to do. If I had this opportunity to eat an entire cake or hold myself accountable, I would rather eat the entire cake. And the only thing that prevents me is realistic consequences, to eating the entire cake.
Yeah.
But my parents were awesome. Like, I appreciate the fact that they loved us so much. And so what I do like about my childhood was my family unit. And my dad was a great musician, so it was awesome to be around him. My mom was really funny, so it was cool to be around her. But they also had some beliefs I think sucked, that were church related. And I think my sister had a way harder time with the strict upbringing. She went wild, and I did not go wild. I was like I didn't go wild till later, and it was very short.
So your upbringing was strict.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Completely strict.
What denomination did you grow up in?
Wesleyan Methodist.
Oh yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, that makes sense why your dad's cool. Well, compared to Baptists, or like.
Oh.
And did you see the news about that today?
No.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think I read an article. Oh, that's terrible.
It's dark.
What happened?
Basically, the church I grew up in. No. No.
Oh, you're Baptist?
No.
Yeah, I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. They rebrand themselves. They'll always be a weird name. Like they'll be like Johnson Avenue Church, or Cold Creek Parkway Covenant. Now, any of those kind of churches with those obscure names were part of the SBC, or the Southern Baptist Commission, and that is this big, kind of overarching branch that helps a bunch of different churches all around the world, lots of missionaries. Well, they've been kind of like the Catholic Church, whenever a sexual harassment or rape allegation is put up against one of these pastors, they move them to a different church and then divert all the phone calls about it. And all the victims are now coming forward. And it's hundreds of pastors' names are on this list. Right. So the system is definitely flawed, right? And that's why.
Yeah, well, they have an unhealthy look at sexuality, and especially for young people and for women, and they just you don't even look at that.
Yep.
Anyway, and you try to avoid any contact with information about it, or any education, secular education, or.
I was never told a single thing about sex or anything. Yeah. Not once. Yeah.
We were talking about what a fool's errand, and what setting people up for failure. Don't kiss, don't hug, don't talk about sex, and then go out on your wedding night and be a competent human mating species. Member of the species. It's what?
Yeah.
I don't even have cliff notes. It's how are you supposed to be successful?
And the pastors would always say the real problem is thoughts, because you can't have any impure thoughts, because Abraham made a covenant with his eyes, or I can't remember. I don't know if that's the right figure now, but so you're even thinking about it, you're not allowed to do. So as you start to your body turns on, you start to think about it. It was it's a weird dichotomy to be told that this very natural thing you're feeling, and God forbid you ever jerk off and experience it, and then
the only reason we're really here, the only thing we're here, the only absolute that we're supposed to be doing is procreating. Don't think about it.
Let's not deal with it. In fact, let's take away all their sexual rights, and then we'll let them hang out with little kids all day. I think.
What's the worst thing that could happen? Kathy, I want to go back though, because I want to the whole upbringing thing is so. We talk about it every time we get together, and so you didn't. How many kids are in your family?
There's 3 of us.
And where are you in the pecking order?
I'm the baby. Isn't it clear?
Maybe now, but and your sister is how many sisters?
The eldest.
Yeah. And you have a brother
she was like second mom.
Right.
Girl, boy, girl.
Which that's the rule of the eldest is to be.
Right.
Oh, totally.
What's the age spread?
She's 5 years older than me. My brother's 3 years older than me. My brother is one of my closest friends too. We have a lot in common.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love my brother.
He's an opera singer.
Is he?
What?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he also did Microsoft there, so he's not like a professional opera singer traveling the world, but he sings beautifully.
Oh, nice.
That's amazing. Was there? Oh, I wanted to ask you a question. Was there in those philosophy classes? Was there a specific book? When you first went to college, was there like an author or a theory that like made you start questioning your faith?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, this is like, so I love like Jean-Paul Sartre is one that I like a lot and read and find fascinating and kind of align some beliefs with. But lots of people say things that I think are fantastic. I've been reading this guy right now named Martin Hageland. But at the time, the super not cool or deep Jonathan Livingston Seagull, actually it might be kind of deep. It was just this little story, almost like a biblical parable. But it was about a bird who chose to fly their own way and not with the group, and they kept getting in trouble. And those stories were the ones that were really speaking to me. So who's that guy, Jonathan Livingston Seagull? I can't remember the author, but that story. It sounds like Shel Silverstein. No, it's this other dude. But yeah, it's worth reading. It's like maybe 10 pages long or something. And the other one was, I hate to say Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead, but it's true because that book talked about working hard and being skilled at whatever you do and pursuing mental endeavors, but also being selfishly pursuing your own artistic vision. And that was sort of the opposite of what I grew up in.
Right.
You weren't supposed to question anything. You weren't supposed to. Yeah. So, so the two things that really hit me at first were really pretty simple.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later I started reading more philosophy.
I think it was Richard Bach.
Richard Bach, that's who it is.
Bach.
You should read it. It's like 10 pages or something, and it's, it's
we have it.
Pretty good parable, I think.
That was a favorite book of my mom's, so we all have a copy. That's a great. I
have not read any of these, by the way. I said Richard Bach. It sounded like I had read it. I have not read any of these authors you've mentioned.
I looked it up. I didn't know off the top of my head. I looked it up. I didn't.
Okay.
It's the interwebs, people.
Yeah.
We have our own fact check.
We use Bible Hub.
Yeah. Yeah. So your sister went to how crazy did your sister go? Are we allowed to talk about your sister?
Yeah, so she was, in the 70s, so that's when she was really going to high school, and that's when everybody was partying and having fun, and so she went that route, and I think that was really hard to be out on your own being a Christian and then like partying with your friends, and you had to live this sort of closeted life of when you were in church, the only things that were fun were things that you were never allowed to do. So I think my sister was like, well, I think I'll do those things.
Was there like a lot of backlash from your parents?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, and especially like how women were treated at the time too, to choose to kind of be a certain way, you get labeled a whore and all, which she had a lot of friends. I mean, everybody at that point, everybody was acting that way. So everybody was whores, I guess, all the men and women. But you had to hide it all from everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And And then what?
And I think because of that, I didn't do that.
Right. And so, how old are you?
I'm 55.
So were you 85?
Good job.
Yeah. Okay. So she's 80. So she's 82, 81.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
81.
She's right in. She's right
Summer
in the thick of. She's dazed and confused. Fully dazed and confused.
Yeah. That's exactly. When I saw that film, I'm like, that's my.
Dude. Yeah.
Dude.
Totally,
If
that's
we.
What? That's my freshman year of high school. Like 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Same thing.
That's so cool.
And so now when you like have your backlash, you move to Los Angeles, what does that look like?
Well, I think my mom was super disappointed in us because, not only did I leave the church, but I had to tell everybody about it.
Oh.
I couldn't just be quiet and allow people to have their what I thought was maybe ignorant and harmful beliefs, and
they raised a good thinker.
The what?
They raised a thinker. You're going to say your piece. That's a good on them. Like they didn't raise a sheep.
Yeah, I think ultimately, and my mom there's no way that my parents were not going their own direction.
Sure.
If they accepted, gay relatives and, like I think they think they were pretty reasonable, and they worked with homeless people my whole life. I mean, they believed in that do good part of everything. My mom, like, she could not keep a possession that she would not give to someone in need. Like, that was her whole thing. And it was a true thing. There was no part of it that was false or trying to do anything else, but it was connected to her opinion that she needed to better the world around her. Yeah. That part of religion, I think, is awesome. It's fucking rad. And it needs to come into the secular world more. And I'm afraid that it doesn't. I'm afraid that people live a purposeless life. And I think it puts people in a huge depression.
Yeah. It seems to be kind of almost worse than the pandemic, though. But, I always tell my friends I never knew how short or unattractive I was until I moved to Santa Monica. Because everyone around me is just like your skin looks amazing, just like, wow, like guy, girl, it doesn't matter. You're like, damn, like, okay, this is where I am. But we lived right by a big outdoor mall here, and when the George Floyd stuff happened, it was raided, and so there was like a tank, and there was like all this crazy stuff that was going on that night. And the next morning, I went and walked around, and there was 1,000+ people out, every gender, every nationality, with like brooms and dustpans, and they were cleaning, they were scraping off banks, and you saw there was also people taking advantage of that, just getting a social media thing for it. But there was people out there all day cleaning, and I feel like it's in us. We want it all to happen. It just this divide. I think it's, especially if you grow up indoctrinated or in these cultures and you're only allowed to think of it this one way, religion, and then you find out that argument's kind of built on nothing, it's like
smoke and mirrors.
That's a really good point you're making. I think it's really, actually, I've been reading this book called This Life by Martin Hagelin, and it's about secular faith. And his whole idea is the things of value are things that you have to put your work into for them to exist, whether it's your relationships or your art or your physical health, or, and that actually is the meaning of life, is the things that we tend to keep them to keep them living, no matter what it is. Even our morals and our ethics, we have to tend to those too. So.
Yeah, got to keep those tools sharp.
Damn. Look at us getting all positive, though. I see what I'm saying? I see light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting I know there might be an asteroid coming. I know there might be a door on Mars, but what the fuck? I think we might actually get better. I think it's all in us all, and we want it. And I think it's just technology is so weird. In the last incremental evolution, humanly speaking, that happens so quickly here is just hard to deal with. It's like a jet coming back into orbit, or something. We're like breaking up at the seams as a species, but I think we're going to land safely. I think it's going to be good. Look at Geoff.
What do you think, Geoff? Do you think that?
Take off the rosy colored glasses. Hit the weed again, hippie.
I'm going.
No, Leif and I go back and forth on this because we obviously there are good people and there always have been, but I think there are so many people now who it's not good or bad, it's just sheep. It's like people that just don't have their own thoughts and don't have the wherewithal to power through and find, it's like there's so much stuff. You just go on the internet. I just spent 2 hours on TikTok, and that's what I did instead of reading the book that you're talking about, or scrolling through their Facebook feed endlessly instead of, like calling someone on the phone and having a conversation. It's like this disconnect is I don't want to say it's permanent, but there's a reset coming.
It's a factor, and it will always be there as something that you have to figure out your place with it. Like, are you going to be completely immersed all the time with distractions, which is so easy to do and soothing and dopamine release? Or, I think about this all the time because it's easy to stop doing the important things.
Yep. You're totally right. And my fear is that it's like for people that are our age, it's a choice. But for young people who are born into it, there is that, like, they have to choose the other, like that's where they they're native there, right? The internet natives, whatever they call those, where they have to, like my son, he has to choose to go out and make a connection. Yeah, it's real, and it's like, and that's not, it's terrifying to if that. Yeah,
and they also don't know what it's like to ever live in that world without that.
Exactly.
We do.
Yeah. Where it's like you go out, you can go out in the morning, while you're still living at your parents' house and be gone all day, and have them not have any idea where they are and have no way to contact you. It's like that would never happen, and a lot of that is thanks to the Catholic Church, because it's like, stranger danger and all these like, like even the places that are safe now are not safe. I have to get that in every time. So there you go.
It's rough. It's hard out there for a pope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, so this is where Leif and I land, where he, it's always this 10 and 2 where he's like, it's gonna be better. I'm like, it's fucked. So, but
well, in some ways the world, up until just very recently, the world was better in so many ways, right? There was less death from disease. There was less illiteracy. There was, we were like improving in all these huge and on a massive level, and the ability to feed the world. And but who knows with global? We have all these things that are being presented to us, and how are we going to address them? That's the thing. Can we address it? I mean, if we don't have the thing that religion gives people is this sense of meaning, purpose, and that there's this divine plan. Without that, we have to be the people that organize that and make that happen, because otherwise people become cynical and are apathetic and stop trying to improve the world. And if people stop trying to improve the world, they're just going to be greedy and try to hoard the limited resources for themselves, and that's where we are.
And it feels like that's already happening. And it's that same thing you were just talking about. It's like if people stop tending the world, they're trying to be better people, trying to make the world a better place. It's that same thing. If you stop tending it, it goes south. It goes to weed and all that stuff. What is it that I want to finish up? Just get to present. Get from Los Angeles Kathy Moore to Seattle 2022 Kathy Moore, and just like, because like you're back, like when you moved to Los Angeles, are you still were you sober in college?
I hadn't even really drank yet.
Yeah.
I drank for a very short period of time and drank all the alcohol that existed.
You made up for lost time.
I went from 0 to like 80,000.
Because you're not a quitter.
And I feel like the first time I drank, which was around 22, but I drank a little bit at 21. I think I had a couple episodes before that of drinking, but really it was 22 when I started drinking. The first time I drank, I was like, oh, I'm an alcoholic. I just knew it. It was so crazy because people never admit it. I was like, yep,
it's fun.
Boy, am I
do this different.
Yeah, it's fun.
And how long did it take you from 22 to when you actively became a sober person?
22 to 32, so it was 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, is your alcoholism, is that a genetic thing, or was that like a backlash from your upbringing? Was it like where do you land?
Yeah, I think it was both. I think there's probably a genetic component, and then I think that I had this void, this empty, Jesus hole in my
a giant
heart.
Jesus shadow.
Oh man, I know. It's ridiculous.
And I'm a very happy person.
Yeah.
Almost always. It could not, and even happiness could not replace the Jesus void. There's no way to cover up that, that lack of purpose that I kind of stumbled around in for a while. So I don't know if that's why. I think I was having a good time too. Yeah. I wasn't allowed to do those things. So I was like, I want to do all those things. I didn't do drugs though, really.
Yeah.
I missed out on drugs.
Yeah, I waited till I was 30. That seemed to be the good move.
You did?
Yeah, I didn't smoke weed till I was 30. Well, I thought it would make you a loser. Because all my band friends that called themselves artists would just smoke weed and play Xbox all day. And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I wanted to practice all day and like write songs, and like, so I had to, how like you have a friend that really likes Radiohead, so you like kind of hate Radiohead. That was like me and marijuana, I'm like, you're fucking annoyed, you like that? That shit must suck. But first hit, I was like, everyone's lied to me my whole life. That was the first words out of my mouth. But it really helped.
Because here we are.
I did smoke pot a couple times.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Fantastic.
And what was the takeaway on that?
I was supposed to write someone's paper. Oh no, the first time I smoked pot, I auditioned for a band to play accordion, which I didn't play accordion.
What?
And I couldn't make this happen because I was so high. I could not understand what this was. Moving my hands back and forth.
I have hands.
And then I just laughed for probably 2 hours, and I'm like, I don't think that's the way I want to be high. And the second time, I was supposed to write a paper on Edgar Allan Poe for somebody. And I could not, I just laughed and had my hand like this. So I guess it paralyzed me. And so I was like, I don't think that's what I want. Paralyzed me in laughter.
Yeah.
I think that sounds great.
And inability.
There are worse paralytics. Right?
Maybe I'll go back.
Yeah,
I keep threatening at 80.
You're probably safe now.
Yeah.
It's like when you're, the 22 to 32, those are some pretty, those years are.
Your brain's developing.
Well, your women's was probably, when do women's brains finish developing? Sooner
when they're
men.
6.
Yeah.
It's obvious.
Oh God,
they're so much smarter than boys.
Yeah, forever. Yeah.
Forever.
But yeah, those 10 years, those are important, like experience garnering years and figuring out what does work for you and what doesn't work for you. And by the time you're in your 50s, you're not going to all of a sudden start a podcast and smoke weed for 4 hours every day. Wait a minute.
Build the life you want.
Right.
50s are my favorite decade. 40s was really my favorite decade when that was happening, but 50s are my favorite decade. So I kind of think, I wish the world wasn't ending, and I wish,
right. Yeah. Again.
I know.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Aliens are coming.
Yeah.
It's going to save us. It'll unite us. There'll be a different power.
Dude, they're already here.
Dude, no one even cares. Do you guys, have you been following the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial at all? Have you? It's because it's the most amazing reality TV that's ever happened ever, and it's so good. And it's strange to me that it happened right when all the new UFO shit just went through. Like the Pentagon has been testifying and like all this new evidence. Like they went from 15 sightings to like 400 in the report. And it's like also the most entertaining. Like this girl pooped on a bed, like it
just sounds like being on tour.
Somebody's always pooping on a bed on tour, right?
It's so fun.
Are you telling me that Led Zeppelin did not poop on beds? Come on.
So,
dude.
I think it's not an accident, Lace. It's not an accident.
Thanks, Geoff. I figured that one out myself. You like that?
That's the powers that be, man. Yeah, look over here. Look over here. Yeah.
Well, and like maybe I'm too much, like my upbringing has sprouted this evangelism and everything, unfortunately, but like psychedelics were so healing for me. I don't do them often. I got kids, and you got to have some time to, if you're going to do mushrooms or something. But like it really was like years of therapy. Like the first time I did mushrooms, I had like this crazy breakthrough in my life that was absolutely not possible without that happening, and I know it's just for me. Maybe someone else finds it through yoga, or like you through instruments, and this like
and yoga, and
yoga's so great, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I taught yoga for 17 years, probably because of this whole So I want to say about psychedelics, I have a really close person in my life who that psychedelics changed their life. And they think that if they wouldn't have done them, they would have become violent like their family. Instead, they became very loving. And it was, like you said, years of therapy. It was really huge for them.
Yeah.
So I think drugs could be beneficial to certain people, for sure.
Yeah, the ones that the amphetamines, nobody needs amphetamines.
Not so good, yeah.
Those are the ones that...
No crystal meth. No.
They're like the bad apple. The rotten strawberry in the bunch that like, this whole, but the whole bunch is not bad. It's just amphetamine. Yeah. Nobody needs to be faster than they are.
Yeah, the cocaine, we could do it all right now. Or we'll have 17 business plans. I guarantee you. We're awesome. Everything we're doing is amazing.
Well, no one needs that. Even in moderation, that might be okay. It's the part where if you feel like you need to, that needs to be your default. Like no one feels like mushrooms needs to be their default. No one feels like no one feels like DMT needs to be their default. They want to live their life immersed in that. It needs to be like a little tiny staycation where you just go there for a second and you come home and then you do your thing and you you dream about what happened when it was there, when you were there.
So keep going, sorry.
No, just the ones the drugs that make you want to live there, that's the problem.
Yeah.
In my
opinion. And that you spend all your money on and you destroy your relationships with and you
it's a real thing, and it's why I've kind of toned down my fervor, evangelistically speaking, with it, because I wanted to dress as Jesus and give joints to homeless people, because like there's so many, and like I saw this guy, his back was hurting one night, and I just like rolled a joint and ran it down to him real quick, and his like the look on his face was like, it wasn't like, oh, I get to get high. He's like, oh, I can get 8 hours of sleep on this concrete tonight, but some of these people have drug problems, and like,
I just feel lucky that I was able to stop drinking, and I do have to say, this is kind of like you were saying about social media, because I think that there's so many things that have parallel to, religion and drugs have parallel, and But I think I'm really lucky because I had years and years of not drinking, and now I've had years and years of not drinking again. So it was easier for me to stop than someone who'd been drinking or whatever since they're 12.
Right. Did you so, what was the I mean, 10 years is a good run. What changed?
Well, like I love my husband, and I don't want to be a sloppy human. You know,
that's what I did too.
So,
you say that again. You left your husband. You loved your husband. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I love, because I love my husband. I mean, it wasn't just because of that. I just didn't want to be a sloppy human, and I felt like, you know, it's not like 10 years I was acting it the way I did the last 2 years, but the last 2 years I was like, this is not going to work out for anyone.
Well, gigging too. Shows like alcohol.
We used to go play gigs, and they would give us like vodka glasses like this.
It's really fun. So, yeah.
Well, we've talked about that. Like, being really drunk on stage is fun for you and almost no one else. And you think, and the part where, like, when we were young and nobody was recording anything, it was easier to get away with. But then you start seeing yourself drunk on videos or audio, and it's like, oh,
I'm in a different universe than they are.
Wow, that felt so much better than it sounds. You know, that's a problem. Yeah. That's when I stopped smoking pot. Was I got when I first started playing with one of the bands, the first real gig I got, and I was smoking pot up until that point. I learned 3 songs, and then rewarded myself with a big bong hit, and went back and tried to play the 3 songs, and I couldn't retain them. Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, okay, fuck that. That's no more daily pot smoking. And I used to love playing Stone. But, whatever.
Yeah.
I like playing.
Well, plus there's the high of playing that's actually legitimate. That hysterical elation that you get through flow that is so wonderful. I think some people actually smoking pot and playing is this really incredible thing. That combination of things is really great.
That was Fielder's advice.
So I'm all for that too. Yeah, well.
Yeah, it worked. I mean, well, also though, Geoff and I joined this band called Rockaroke. It's a live karaoke band, and you have to learn. It's like 1,000 songs with no charts. So you got to like, they just the audience picks a song, comes up on stage, and you play. So you got to learn all that stuff, and that's when I started smoking weed and eating weed, and I'd eat like mushrooms and weed.
It should be made clear that this was also coincided with those 2 years of the worst part of Leif's life was like that was also during rock. So it could have been having to learn Third Eye Blind and Black Velvet over
just all day. You're in a van, everyone's having fun. You're not drinking. You're just learning Black Velvet.
Oh God.
Fuck.
Down.
Such a bummer.
There's like 3 songs on the whole list that are fun to play, and the rest of them are like,
yeah. And every time you do play the Trooper, no one gives a fuck. But you play Santeria, every white person's like, oh, they're getting up, they're dancing all horrible. Yeah, didn't help my faith in humanity, that gig. No. Yeah, Geoff was trying to get you to finish the Seattle story. Did we get all the way through to present day?
So where are you when you're 32 years old? Where do you when do you leave Los Angeles? When do you get here again?
I came back here, at 26, and I partied so much, drank so much, and I think I had a fun time.
What year was that?
And I was playing jazz.
What year is when you're 26?
94?
Okay.
Does that seem right?
Yeah.
I think it was 94. So I kind of missed out on grunge. Yes, at that time, that was my new religion. I wanted to play the Village Vanguard. That was it. Everything I was doing was around that. And there was this really great scene in Seattle at the time that coincided. But I'm kind of sad I missed out on some of the early rock and roll experiences in Seattle. I wish I would have seen it. Like, you guys probably got to see all that stuff and live it, and I missed out on it.
Leif is like 15 years younger than us.
Yeah.
I was also praising Jesus, so we weren't allowed to listen to secular music, So
yeah, so you were.
There was that. So we did break records when I was a kid. If that's we broke some records because they had Satan in them.
Like Striper? Like Black Sabbath?
Striper, they were really like pushing it because they were living a secular life as religious people.
Yeah. So
I think we broke our Johnny Mathis album because we're dancing to it.
Johnny Mathis?
What?
Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I think I missed out on some stuff by talking to you guys about how great my parents were. So my parents were very conservative religious. We weren't allowed to dance, roller skate. We weren't allowed to go to movies.
Roller skate?
We weren't allowed to listen to rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Roller skate was dancing on wheels.
Yeah.
Huh. Now it's in the Olympics.
So one time my parents came home and we were dancing to Johnny Mathis because that was
oh my God.
That was a classical or Christian. And so they broke the Johnny Mathis. And by the way, my parents also changed like a couple years later, like, why are we doing this? This is kind of crazy. So they also progressed.
Oh, that's great.
That's great.
But, yeah.
They had room to grow. One thing I did want to it seems like your parents loved you more than they loved religion.
Yes.
I mean, they had a strict upbringing for you, but like sometimes, and I don't know how to say that without being like sometimes Leif's upbringing, it doesn't sound like it's necessary. Obviously, parents love their kids, but like your parents seem to have had like a different barometer for not how important religion was, but they're not raising you that way because I don't even know how to say this really. I don't know. Somehow it seems like your parents, the line was outside the house as opposed to inside the house, sort of. But now you're saying that they broke their Johnny Mathis record, and that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Well, I wonder if because they love Johnny Mathis. I wonder if they looked at that at some point and went,
"What are we doing? That was my favorite.
Crazy behavior."
yeah. Maybe they're like, "Oh, maybe we need to."
Broke our favorite record.
Right. We're being shorted. That record would be worth a lot of money we could give away. So 94, immersed in jazz in Seattle, drinking a bunch, partying hardy. And how old are you? What year are you? What year is it when you're 32? Like, how long does that last?
Is that might be, it's 2001 is when I got sober. So 2001. And you know what I did to get sober? I was with all my jazz friends. We were in a house. It was New Year's Eve. We drank until like 5 a.m. playing jazz. And then and I knew I was going to quit the next day. And the next day I quit. And that was it. So, and I couldn't actually go to AA because my religious background made me not want to deal with being in groups of people talking about a common cause like that. Yeah. So I think that's when my religion has affected me, is I couldn't do AA.
Yeah.
Couldn't be in a room talking about that. So I had to go the yoga way, self way.
And so now who are you playing with? Are there people that you still play with now that you were playing with during those years? When did you and who was the first non-jazz? Like, when did you were you still in jazz in 2001 all the way through there?
Okay. From 32 to 36 I stopped playing after I stopped drinking and I stopped playing jazz too. Like, I had this hard cutoff.
Hard stop.
Hard stop. And kind of lost a lot of friends too, because you're not partying with your friends anymore.
Yeah.
It's like Christianity. I was like into second Christianity. And then actually what brought me back was rock and roll, and some of my jazz friends, but they're like, hey, let's play some rock together. And I was like, oh, why did I stop doing this? I that's more who I am.
Yeah.
Not really.
And so who
that's what I was meant to do.
And that's like 2003, 4, 5?
Yeah, I think it was like 2006 or yeah.
And who did you start playing with?
So I was playing with Jeff Harper, who's like one of the great upright bass players in Seattle. He was also like my maid of honor and my drinking buddy for a long time. It's incredible, very funny, really irreverent. And then Ryan Burns, who you probably know from like Flight to Mars and all that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was in my first rock band back from the brink. Mm-hmm. And Reed Whitwall, who's an incredible drummer. So yeah, we just Igor Abeladze sometimes would come play with us.
He's great. He's so good.
He's so good.
And so how do you feel about spirituality? I mean, we've kind of now like agnostic, is that where you land? Like, what are your,
well,
obviously rock is your church.
Yeah.
I've seen you levitate.
Rock is my church for sure. Music and art and like learning about what it means to be human but definitely spiritual. I taught yoga for 17 years. So I felt like a practice. Music feels like a practice. Yeah. And really that's my only goal. Like I never wanted to get famous. I never wanted to get big in that way. Every once in a while it's wooed me every once in a while. But never that much because I don't want to do any things you have to do. I don't want to tour. I don't want to,
Yeah, totally.
I don't want to be told what to do or how to do it.
Yeah. Or what to play.
Or what to play or take the tremolo off, Right. So, but I like the spiritual nature of music where you can together in a group be transcending and flowing. One of the best examples I have of that in town is a girl named Beth Fleener. And I talk about her a lot. I played in her band called Crystal Beth. She's a genius who is an experimental musician. Her husband's one of the best guitar players in the world. And she creates new sounds all day long. And I feel like her whole thing is this transcendence through music. And I mean, if she just stayed in her little studio and created music all day, she'd be perfectly happy and fine. And I kind of relate to that feeling of I would be fine just to be in here. Yeah. I like to play live, but I like the process of creating music. So that feels like a spiritual,
like a meditation
doorway. Yeah, totally, right? You said flow state a couple times, and that always fascinates me because I think Reddy might even be the first one that used that word because I could never describe it, but I was in this, I thought was a really cool band, but it was like there was really good nights and really bad nights, musically speaking, performance-wise and technically, And on the really good nights, it would be this weird thing I couldn't describe where I was like floating above my body, looking down and kind of not in control of anything, just kind of witnessing what the heck had happened, and it just goes, shh. And I was trying to describe it to him in a green room a long time ago, and he's like, flow state. So when you use this word, is it indicative of something like that? Like, are you talking about out of body experience while playing music?
Yeah, well, it's weird. It feels like there's a pipeline to you. So there's a photo of me looking up like this, and someone had put it in a collage with there's a saint. I can't remember if it's Saint Teresa, but there's a saint that's almost like the saint of flow, and it feels like this sort of transcendent moment. So I can always tell that I've had a really good night if that has happened, and it doesn't even really matter the quality of the thing that I played. I wonder if Neil Young lives in that place. I don't know if he thinks about that. But that when he's like stomping around and playing two notes, and you feel it as an audience member, I feel like there's something. John Coltrane did it always. Like John Coltrane he always did it. It seems like just as an audience member, even to a point where like the audience didn't matter anymore, and then you have sonship. But I don't know, Geoff. Do you experience that when you play?
Yeah, well, it's usually, obviously it's in groups, and like the thing we do, like it happens there when we, and that's probably the biggest group that I've ever experienced it with, because usually like smaller is better. Yeah. Like I don't know what, like four is like, I don't know, but yeah, when you like you're in a tube, like you're not entirely in control of it, but it's like you've kind of relinquished control and it's just going. Like you just, it's not obviously you're prepared. You're prepared physically to do it, and when it happens, you mentally like succumb to it, and it's just like you can. I've had it happen a couple times on hallucinogenics, where it was like, and I would think you and I were talking about this, where it was like, I've only played on acid twice, but both times, like I kind of came to on like and looked at my hands, and it was like out of a little bit more like what Leif was talking about, only I was just like freaking out on the colors behind my eyes, and like, oh, that's so cool. And then I opened my eyes, I realized I was still on stage playing. in the middle of some open jam. I'm like, maybe I should pay attention a little bit, but yeah, no, I think that's what everyone, I think that's the problem with Rock-a-Rocky. That's the problem with, and so that's, like when we, when, Kathy, when we get kind of aggravated that there's this other outfit in Seattle playing this music that you and I are playing because we love to play together and we want to get to those states together. It's not about, oh, you know what, if we play these songs, we can make a bunch of money. And I feel that like I've done like some soul searching on why it offends me so much that these other people are doing this thing. And it's because it makes me feel like I'm in a cover band, because we're competing. Right. It's like, and the cover bands are not where you're going to find flow state for the most part, but we do.
Not strapped to a click.
Yeah.
Because we play those songs and we breathe. Yeah. Like we bring ourselves to them. We're not just like inhabiting somebody else.
That's super important to me when I do covers too. Like I hate that, that's what. Remember the time that Jen and I were on the floor and I was playing like two notes and she was going,
of fucking course.
That was flow that we plugged into this, all of us plugged in, and then we plugged in. And that's why it wouldn't stop, because we were almost at what I call hysterical elation, which is the highest level in music.
Right.
And that's the best part of playing other people's music. The music itself has already proven the test of time. It's already great. It's like jazz standards. You already know these are great things. You're going to play it. But you don't play jazz standards to play the solo of Wes Montgomery. You might play the solo of Wes Montgomery to improve your playing, or to see what it's like to be inside the mind of a genius.
Totally.
To live there.
But you don't do it so that
that's math,
when you play 4 and 6 or something, that you're gonna, like, what's the point of that? This whole other world of coming together is about, why are we all here together on the stage playing this music unless we're going to intertwine together and come into this like state with it? So I'm never happy when I'm just playing exact. I like to play the notes, but I'm never happy just playing exact stuff. It doesn't thrill me.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you're talking about also is trust. Like the people, like it's not just the material, but it's the people. Like you have to, like you can't, if there's somebody who's just up there because they want to make some money, it's like, I don't want to play with that person. You know, that's not why there can't be even one. One of the things I was thinking while you were talking about is that like for the drummer, like I remember like almost every millisecond of what you were talking about, of that thing where you guys were on the ground. And it's like, you know, like I remember consciously, like Jen started doing that, you know, she's trying to bring it back in a little bit before that. And I'm like, nope. You know, like I'm not coming back in. Like I was like, and so for the drummer, it's like I'm steering, but it's like you have to have the engine working, and you guys were like, she realized I wasn't coming back in, so like, and then it fell into that thing because it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna trust him that he'll do it at some point, but until he does, he's obviously not going now, so I have to do something. You know, like I'm gonna trust that it's like it's safe to go, and you guys like just had this fucking one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, you know, like in any performance. And so it's like, it's a little different sitting behind, but once it's there, like I love watching you solo. Like it's real good. It's a responsibility though, because it's like, I have to not like, I can't get too into it because I have to like be there for you when you land, together. You know, it's like, and so it's but I feel like it's the best job in the world, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know what.
Thank you. Well, it's amazing. The one thing, like the difference between something like doing this where we get this complete freedom and something like the theater show, which was so great because it's a finely tuned thing. That's a whole other experience of music, right? Where everyone plays their parts. You're not gonna be doing the thing. You're going to be playing beautiful music, not covering up the words. There's a message being said, and you have to be careful not to cover it up. So that was what was cool about our theater show we just did, Geoff.
You know, and I thought about a lot about that afterwards also, because it was so it's more like it's more like recording. Or not really big. It's like recording if you're all in the same room, like on one mic, you know, like it's Sun or whatever.
Cowboy Junkie stuff.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. But the performance is like it's almost like acting. It's almost that thing where it's like, because you have to. The songs are so concise and so like the vibe of the song is the vibe of the song, and you have to remain within that. But you have to color it to your utmost the without going over the lines, you know, and you have to feather it in with everybody else's color of the song. And I had so much fun doing that. It felt
great,
so
right?
It was so much fun to do. It was definitely not a live performance experience necessarily, you know. Like it wasn't that thing where you're playing for the crowd. It was definitely like, we are trying to fill the contents of this song with the performance of the song. It was so much fun. It was so
especially we had a song over the marionette that felt experimental because of how Jeff Fielder and Jen Ayers had arranged it.
Great humans.
But it was great. Making space noises and little drum loops, and so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah, that's coming.
That's coming.
Yeah, it's a musical. I was telling you
that's
about
right.
that.
It was like I remember now.
Workshopping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kathy, this has been badass.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for asking me about this stuff, because I literally do not talk about this ever. I have rarely talked about this. I think, Geoff, you and I have talked about it a couple times about my religious upbringing. I don't talk to people about it. So it's been kind of fun to talk about.
Yeah, that's the idea, is like, we all experience it, but no one, we're all shut down. We're all clogged up, you know, so
I talk about it a lot.
You got
because the Catholics because the Catholics are the worst. You know, it's like the guilt. Like, I don't care. I never cared about any of it. I never drank the Kool-Aid. I never did, you know, like, never any of it.
Smart.
But I am still immersed in the guilt. And it's like, man, the stink they leave on you. You know, it's like, I love that you guys both have some positive, you know, like, I can't believe my parents, my dad still goes to church. I'm like, you're an educated person. You know, how can you sign up for that? I just don't. And so, yeah, so I just, that's why I come to this. It's like, I'm Geoff and I'm a recovering Catholic. Hi, Geoff.
Yeah, we've actually been doing this for like 20 years.
Yeah, it has.
In green rooms, we just sit around talking about. I just sit there and he'll ask me questions about the Bible. I'm like, well, yeah, it's in Genesis. Yeah, it's been fun. So now we record it.
Technology caught up with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. I'm sure you got a bunch to do, so we can say goodbye.
Yeah.
And again, whenever you want to come back on, and we do yoga, spirituality. We'd love to hear. We'd love to let you get deeper into that.
Philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Serious.
Yeah. Whenever you want to come back, please do. We love it.
I will. Okay. It's wonderful to see you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for listening. It's been great. This has been really fun. We have Keith Nelson from Buck Cherry on next Thursday. Also just a fucking shredding guitar player and a stellar human. So we'll see you then. Kisses.